first home can feel very overwhelming and stressful, especially if it is your forever home or you plan on living there for the next 5 to 10 years. I was in the exact same position only a few years ago, and that was when we built our current home. To make the journey of building your first home more enjoyable and less stressful, I will be breaking down the building process and giving you some tips to keep in mind. Just a disclaimer, I am not a builder or anything within that field, and what I'm sharing is my personal experience and a few tips that I learned along the way. The first thing to do before you start building your dream home is to research. You want to research which builder you want to work with, what your dream home is going to look like, and where you want to live. I do recommend visiting as many display homes as you can to see the difference between each building company. Usually in the display homes, they'll have a home with all the basics, a middle range home, and then a very luxurious home. That will give you an idea of what each company offers. For example, some companies don't include ducted aircon as part of their basic packages. Take photos and look for inspiration for things that you want in your home. I do recommend also creating a Pinterest board. That way you can get an idea of what color scheme and some inspiration on what the inside and the outside of your home should look like. Another big thing to consider in your research is the location of your home. The method that I used to decide the location of my home was I had 3 non-negotiables and 3 things that were a hard no. The 3 things that were a hard no for the location of our home was for it to be a corner house, to be near a roundabout, and for it to be on a main busy street. The 3 things that were my non-negotiables was for it to be in a quiet suburban area, located near a train station, and to have a local shop and school nearby. Now the fun part, designing. At this stage, you would have decided on your builder. Before you sign the contract on the home or package, I would recommend talking to the sales rep about what changes you can make to the floor plan. Keep in mind that some building companies are quite strict on their floor plans and don't allow many modifications. But in our case, we were able to change a few things before we finalized the design. So this is the part where all your research and inspo will come in handy, because now you can add that to the design of your home. When I was doing the design process for our home, it was quite challenging because the sales rep was very slow to replying to our emails and also didn't explain what we could and we couldn't change in the design of our home. So if you have any questions or you're thinking of changing anything for your home, I would recommend to just ask the questions, because if you sign the contract, they might not allow you to make any changes afterwards. Next up is contracts. So this is the overwhelming stage and the stage where you realize how expensive it is to build a home. I know in this stage it feels like there's fees and contracts being thrown at you left, right, and center, but just take it one step at a time. I do recommend to get a really good conveyancer. They will be able to read through the contracts and explain everything to you so that you don't have to do it yourself. The conveyancer will be able to go through fees such as stamp duty, land tax, council rates, and so on. Keep in mind that you will have to pay the conveyancer as well, so it would be a good idea to ask them what their standard rates are. With our building experience, there was quite a high land tax on the land that we were purchasing, which was something that we had no idea about. I think they were charging us more than $10,000 on the land, and fortunately our conveyancer was able to negotiate with the owner to reduce the land tax down, so we only paid about $1,000 or less. So I do recommend getting a very good conveyancer. Another thing to look out for in your contract, which your conveyancer will most likely mention to you, is the sunset law. The sunset date is the day that the developer must complete the project by. So if the builder or developer is unable to complete the project by this date, then either party can cancel the contract without any penalty. What you want to do is look at how far away the sunset date is from the day that you're signing the contract. That way you can make sure that this date is not an issue for you. This is just my understanding of the sunset date, so I would recommend to discuss this further with your conveyancer or solicitor. One last thing, I strongly don't recommend building a home while you're also planning a wedding, because that's what I did, and learn from my lesson and just don't do it. Next up is the building phase. This is where the magic happens and you finally see your dream home coming to life. I won't go through the stages of actually building the home because you can easily search for that yourself. What I do recommend is to build, pun intended, is to build a relationship with the construction manager or supervisor. The construction manager is in charge of making sure that the building stages are going to plan and everything is up to standard. Our manager was amazing. He was so down to earth and gave us fortnightly or weekly updates on the home. We were able to message him if there were any concerns, and we were able to organize regular inspections to see our home come to life. Another thing to keep in mind is that in New South Wales, there is a shutdown period at around end of December and January, and that's when construction workers are essentially not working. I guess that's something to keep in mind if you're in the beginning phase of building your home, because ideally you don't want the timber frames to be left out in the hot summer days during that shutdown period. I know this may not be in your control, but it is something to think about. We are up to the final stage. It is handover day. Yay! Before the supervisor hands you your keys to your first home, you will do a final inspection. In this inspection, you want to look at everything and test everything, because if there's any issues like water leaking, no hot water, any electricity issues, the builder has to fix it right away before handover. Don't be afraid to voice any concerns or anything that you notice in the inspection, because this is your first home and it might be your forever home. And if it's not, you'll probably be living in it for the next 5 or 10 years. Remember that you've been working on this for months or even years, and all the planning and designing and inspections that you've done. So don't be afraid to speak up to your supervisor and try to fix what you can, because you want your home to be as perfect as it can be before you move in. So you've finally got the keys to your home. Some of you may need this step and some of you may not, but this is the stage where you'll do your DIYs. With our build, Lawrence and I actually did the flooring after the handover. The reason why we did this is because we wanted specific tiles for the ground floor, and we also wanted timber flooring for upstairs. I know you can do all of this with your builder, but after seeing the tile and timber options with our builder, I decided to source my own. We asked them to refund the cost of materials and labor for the flooring to be done. To be honest, they didn't refund a huge amount of money, which is expected, but it meant that we were able to pick and choose the flooring that we wanted. I won't go into too much detail on how we did the DIY, but what I will share is it was quite stressful having to
outsource the materials and the tradies and also manage them and inspect the house at the same time.
So unless you really want something specific for your home, I would recommend to try to get it all done with your builder, because our experience was not the most pleasant. But it's okay. It's all done and I love our home and I hope you will love yours too. So I've broken down the building journey in 5 steps, I believe. That's the general process on how to build your first home. I hope this guide and my little tips have made it a lot clearer and easier for you so that you can enjoy the journey rather than feeling overwhelmed and lost. If you have any questions about my journey on building, or you are building your first home, leave a comment down below. I know how exciting and stressful this whole journey is, so I'd love to help and hear all about it. I'm going to love and leave you all now. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.